Welcome back to Andersen Acres. It's summer again, so we are going to start talking again about gardening here and there. Not every day, maybe only once a week or so. Today we're going to talk about soil preparation, because absolutely one of the best things you can do to have a healthy, wonderful, beautiful garden is to prepare your soil before you stick plants in it. So you want your dirt to be ready for the plants. So healthy soil will give you healthy plants. You want soil that is firm enough to anchor your roots so your plants don't just blow away, but you want it loose enough to allow those roots to spread. You want soil that keeps some moisture but doesn't hold so much moisture that it drowns your plants, so you don't want root rot. And you don't want your plants to be basically suffocated because the roots can't get what they need from the soil because they're just waterlogged. So you need to make sure your soil drains properly. You need soil that supplies adequate nutrients for the plants you're growing. And you need soil that supports earthworms, soil fungi, and microorganisms, because those things help keep the soil healthy. So you need to make sure you have a soil that can support that kind of ecosystem. Now, if you live in an area like I do, then you probably have a high clay content in your soil. Clay is really common. It's also really high in nutrients, but it has really bad drainage. It tends to hold a lot of moisture. Gardens that are made out of a heavy clay soil could see a lot of their plants drown. If you have a sandy soil, well, that's better for drainage, isn't it? However, it doesn't have the nutrients that you need. Ideally, your soil would be made of loam. Loam is really the best of both worlds. But what is it? Well, it's clay, silt, sand, and organic matter. So if you have all of that, then you have the ideal soil. But most of us aren't lucky to have the perfect soil. I know I don't. We have a lot of clay here, so a lot of our soil is really hard, difficult to break up. It holds a lot of moisture because we have so much clay. So we would be blessed if we had loam, but we do not. So because we don't have loam, and because we have so much clay, we have to do soil prep. Most people will have to do soil prep, and soil prep can fix a lot of problems. Okay? So, if you're lucky and have loam, then all you generally have to do is remove the weeds and vegetation that you don't want there. You want to break it up with a rake. You want to break up your soil with a rake, and you're ready to go. But if you're like me and the vast majority of people, you're going to need to improve the structure, fertility, and drainage of the soil on your own because it's just not good enough. So if you're going to do that, you can do it by adding organic matter and minerals. This is really easy to do. It's not as complicated as you think. Yes, you can buy commercial fertilizers, but you can also use grass clippings. You can use baked down manure or even compost. A note on using baked down manure. It does need to be baked down. If you're like us and you have animals, so we have a horse, we have goat, we have chickens, we have rabbits, and we have quail, and we have turkeys. All of their manure, all of their poop, can be used to create a really great compost. But it has to be baked down. How long it has to be baked down, it depends on the species. I will link both to a video where I talked about rabbit manure and where I talked about horse manure as it is used for compost and in gardens. I'm going to link to both those videos in the video description, because it's really important that the manure you're using is appropriately baked down. You don't want to apply it straight out of the animal in most cases because that will burn your plants. So if you are going to use manure, make sure you are using appropriately baked down manure. If you don't have it yourself, see if you have somebody you know who has horses or chickens or something where you can buy the manure for them. They might be happy to have you come to their yard and take some away. It's really good stuff. You want to apply your manure or your compost or whatever you're using, your organic matter. You want to apply it once a year and before you plant. Don't wait till after you plant. Take the initiative, get it planted. Get it all worked, get it turned. So you want to turn your soil with that compost or manure or whatever it is in it. Put the compost on, turn the soil so you really work it in, and it helps break up your soil to allow your plants to grow better anyway. So you are essentially fertilizing and rototilling or breaking up your soil all in one move, because then you can have soil that is ready for your plants. This is harder to do around perennials because you don't want to rip up your perennials. So if you do have perennials, just apply a really light layer of your compost or whatever organic matter you're using. Apply a really light layer. Don't turn it because you don't want to rip your perennials out of the ground. Just very thin layer right over top before your plants sprout. And I do mean a thin layer. You don't want to kind of lock those plants in and keep those perennials from blooming. So before they start to sprout, very light layer. You can do this once a year. It keeps your gardens healthy, and eventually with rain and such, those nutrients do sink down into the soil. You just can make it happen a little faster if you turn your soil first. But with perennials, you probably don't want to do much turning. You don't want to damage those precious bulbs. A lot of our perennials have delicate bulbs, and we don't want to mess with them. Anyway, that is about it for today. I hope you prepare your garden beds before you plant your flowers or your food crops. That way you have a better success this growing season. For us, the growing season's hardly started. We have a weird growing season up here. But for you, growing season might be well underway. That's about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.